Hello ladies and gents, good evening and welcome back to Chaos TV's live coverage of the Epic Gear Cup number 2. It is the grand finale between SK Gaming Prime and Mouz. I am Vince Metasil, joined alongside Richard, Pulse, Cam, and we are jumping into the picks and bans for Game 2.
We are, however, going to be spectating over the stream, so there's going to be a slight delay while we get those our commentary to you. It's going to be a little bit delayed, but the first band champions will be LeBlanc, Evelyn, Gragas, and Kha'Zix.
Yes, indeedy. No big surprise to see Kha'Zix banned out here because Perry was doing some serious work with that champion. LeBlanc and Gragas, pretty standard bans. Nothing to really write home about. Very strong in lane and scale well into the later stages.
And we said in the first champion select, it's a little bit strange that they allowed that Kha'Zix to go through, and we saw why it was a little strange for it to go through, because he went something like 7-0 by the end of that game and did huge work for his team, one of the big factors as to why SK looks so strong. But Lee Sin is going to round out the last ban for SK Gaming. In response will be Karma.
Yeah, Karma is a directed ban against Six. He is known for his Karma support play at bot lane, so even though on paper it looks like an odd ban, I can understand it for sure. Six runs an incredible Karma. That being said though, they've left Lulu, Wukong, Yasuo still open from last game.
You know, there's so many good picks at the moment here, Metas, that it's difficult to ban out everything, and if they locked in the Kassadin, that could be very interesting, because if you didn't know, on 4.4, this is the live server, so the new changes to Kassadin have come into effect, and that will be the full rework coming into his kit. There was lower damage on his Force Pulse, but Q has been changed, and the rest of his kit as well.
Exactly, so are they going to lock it in though? Because it's only been a few days since the patch was released. We were talking about this previously and saying it normally takes a week or so, a week or two before people get comfortable with the new champions before they're going to bring it out in these kind of games. And you can see they are starting to switch around. Pantheon has been locked in from jungle alongside the Caitlyn again.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, at the moment, Metas, no one knows where the Kassadin's worth playing. That's kind of the thing at the moment. Like, people just don't know how strong he is, how he even works. It's essentially a new champion, but with the same sort of intrinsic mechanics that Kassadin used to bring to the table. As a result, they're going to swap over to Pantheon and Caitlyn, which makes a hell of a lot more sense.
It certainly does. Pantheon has definitely been seeing a lot more of a spotlight recently from the jungle, has incredible ganking potential after hitting level 6 with the Grand Skyfall, so definitely one to watch out for. This would probably indicate that SK Gaming Prime will not pick an AD carry without an escape, because Pantheon can suddenly just appear behind you, and it's very difficult to actually survive that gank, even with a Lulu there. Not too sure what we're going to see though, obviously we are slightly behind.
And first picking the Caitlyn as well is fairly difficult to pick into. She does fairly well against all AD carries at the moment because of her range just being longer than everyone else. It looks like they may just lock in the Lucian. In fact, they have done on my screen, which is kind of more of a neutral lane. Typically, you'll pick Caitlyn into Lucian to neutralize the lane, meaning that he doesn't have the same trading potential because he just can't get in range. So picking the Lucian into Caitlyn just means it's not going to be that much of an aggressive lane.
Exactly, they've got quite a bit of poke as well with Glitter Lance and obviously Piercing Light Ardent Blaze that comes out from Lucian, and as I was saying before, Lucian does have the Relentless Pursuit to dodge out the way of that Grand Skyfall when he sees it popping down at the bot lane. However, as we mentioned previously, Wukong was left open and will be picked in this time for SK Gaming Prime. Last time, of course, Perry was running that Kha'Zix.
So I have to wonder with the Wukong pickup whether they'll choose to bring in the Yasuo, because they haven't touched top lane yet, they haven't touched the support either, or it could be Lulu and they put in the Yasuo mid lane. There's a lot of opportunities for SK to change up their lineup, but they are currently hovering over the Orianna from Mouz. We'll see what their last pick will be here.
Well, it looks like they're going to go for another Annie support, which for the same reasons as game number 1 is a very strong support, especially with Caitlyn as well. Very good at trading, and the Orianna is something that we still see it, but not quite as prevalent as before. And I would expect to see a ball delivery system champion locked in for number 5, because even though Pantheon can fill that job, he's going to be jumping from the skies.
Yeah. And the ball doesn't go all the way up to the sky. I'm not even really sure where Pantheon goes when he goes up there, you know? He could go into orbit, and he could come back down again. That's why it does so much damage on the re-entry into our atmosphere.
Like an asteroid smashing Earth. Yeah, I'd expect to see some kind of, I don't know, it's going to be the top laner, isn't it, more than likely? So maybe something like a Renekton may work here, depending on what SK Gaming Prime actually pick up themselves.
Well, they're hovering over Victor, which I'm assuming is not going to be the pickup, because typically you don't really see Victor in competitive play, but they are looking towards that Yasuo, which you were just commenting on.
Yep, Yasuo, Exile used them in game number 1 to very devastating effect in the end, and as you mentioned, they have the Wukong for the knock-up, so... and the world growth as well, actually, something that is often not quite seen. So there's a lot of utility, a lot of synergy as well with Exile's Yasuo, and they went for the Renekton themselves. Now, I fancied Mouz to take Renekton on their side for the ball delivery system. I think that may have been a really smart pick from Mozilla.
This is a pretty scary combo right here, because they have the wild growth to go on either the Wukong or the Yasuo, whoever needs it more. They're going to be right in the thick of the action, but they're also going to be incredibly tanky, so they're dishing out all of this damage, and it's going to be very hard for Mouz to deal with it. They're looking towards the Rise once again, which really didn't fare too well, even against a favourable matchup being that Malphite, but that was because of the early jungler intervention of Perry using Kha'Zix. This time around, they don't have that. They have Wukong, which is more of a counter ganking jungler. He doesn't really look for the ganks himself, he looks to counter those ganks because he doesn't bring any CC.
Very good point. Top lane wasn't out and out won by Malphite in terms of 1v1. It was a lot to do with Perry's presence at top. So that may be something that's in the back of the mind of Kubon here. He's like, okay, Rise didn't necessarily work amazingly for me in game 1, but that's a lot down to the fact that I was being camped pretty heavily from Kha'Zix. As you say, Wukong isn't necessarily known for his early level ganks, but of course if Rise does overextend, that could very well change, and then you have the Cyclone coming in. Interesting comps though, I have to say. I think SK Gaming Prime on pure composition I actually prefer here already.
Absolutely, I would agree with you, but we'll see how this pans out and how their compositions fare in the game. We are going to jump to a quick commercial break, and when we get back, we'll be in the second game of this best of 3. This could be the last game we see today, or we'll see if Mouz can even this up to a 1-on-1, but we'll see the conclusion to the game just very shortly. We'll see you soon.
After they came and destroyed the land, there was one spark of hope left for all of mankind.
Hello and welcome back to Chaos TV's live coverage of Epic Gear Cup, the grand finals between SK Gaming Prime and Mouz. SK Gaming Prime did pick up the first game in this best of 3. Libic, however, is leading charge into this jungle invade with the delayed trinket wards now into effect, now only being able to be placed at 2 minutes. It does open up those invade possibilities, but Exile was there to stop it. I am Richard Pulscout, alongside me is Vince Metters Hill, and we are ready to cast this game.
We certainly are, and I love the changes to Trinkets, Pulse, especially from a spectator's viewpoint. It opens up so much more aggression in the level 1 stages of this game, and we have seen it already over the last couple of days since 4.4 was indeed released. Having a quick look around the board, let's see if any lane switch-ups are going to happen. It looks very likely, actually, as both Lucian and Lulu are making their way to top lane.
Interesting, and when you have that lane swap up, sometimes it means your jungler might want to go for that very early invade onto the opposing buff in that side of the jungle, because you know you'll have more backup than the opponents, and it means like Ryze won't be able to react, and they'll just pick up that buff. And then the obvious rotations to have Pantheon pick up the opposing red buff, but doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Perry just starting off with red.
And this is what I was talking about in game number 1 when it was Malphite against Ryze, that I was expecting the switch up to come about then, because you want to shut down the Ryze lane, and that seems to be what SK Gaming Prime are going to do this time around. They have a lot of poke, and it's going to be quite difficult for Kuban to get close, because he'll eat a lot of little lances to the face.
So with Perry starting up on the red buff, cycling towards the race, which are a little bit easier to clear up, and then moving on to the blue buff, he'll have the double buff, and then he'll probably look for a gank onto Kuban, see if they can go for that early tower dive, or maybe, in fact, just try and predict the movements of Pantheon. In fact, he's going towards the mid lane along with Annie as well. He's actually just committing on to take fun. The jump forwards from the flash, auto attacks, raining down. The first blood will be going towards take fun.
Have to say though, even though he's recipient of First Blood, very, very smart play not to use Flash. He knew he was dead and buried, there was no point using that, so he's going to have Flash coming back into lane, and he's not going to be an easy second kill. So, again, it's that clarity in moments of real terror that separates the very, very top players from the rest of us.
Absolutely, and in the top lane, Kuban is still chilling out. Mokada will finally go to that red buff, but that was really unexpected in terms of timing. Typically, you just don't see level 2 ganks anymore. That's why it just completely caught Yasuo off guard. Perry looking for the gank in top lane, but a very smartly placed ward will see Perry out, and this might be very dangerous. Mokada is heading around from the top side. Kuban may just aggress onto him, but he's only level 1. Moves onto the decoy and does some damage. Mokada takes a hit from Perry with the Nimbus Strike and the crushing blow. Six has come for the rotation. Kuban is still level 1, however, and is offering very little. Meanwhile, Annie, Libic is dropping incredibly low. One more tower shot would have taken him down. But moving up to this top lane once again, this could be a tower dive happening. It's a large minion wave. Six is the one tanking up this turret. Mokata will stun him with the Aegis. Kuban gets dropped. Perry, one more tower shot, gets dropped in return, with those double buffs going back onto the jungler.
They are in a bot lane with Renekton also fell burn flash the last time around as you were casting at the top lane. He actually got tower dove heavily by Mouz, as you mentioned, being caught from a few tower shots, but they went back in for take 2 knowing that Renekton's flash was down, and pretty nice play from them.
See how much damage they can deal to the top turret and the bottom turret. Makler will be wailing away at this, but it doesn't have the increased armor that the top tower does at this stage in the game. So Mokata is doing his best to try and defend his turret, and doing a pretty good job.
Well, top lane, they look to be re-engaging here, boss.
Yeah, Mokata is trying his best. Throws in the Heartseeker strike, but he's gone very aggressive. Will definitely die here. Double wolves go down as a villain. And Kuban was unable to pick up that kill, and that's a double of Lucian.
I think Kuban was playing super aggressive because of the Aegis protection, his passive that will block the next incoming attack. But it didn't work for him. And then Zvanan gets the kill, flashes away, and has a double buff. So he's going to be coming back to lane. If Ryze's job wasn't hard enough before, it's just escalated to a whole new level now.
That was a very strange gank from Mokata, or a very strange engage, I should say, because he was already in the lane. Because Kuban was level 2. He'd just come back from base, he's got 9 farm at 5 minutes. Renekton really isn't faring too much better, but the level 2 Kuban couldn't really do too much. He just had Rune Prison and he had Overload, and he couldn't get in range to do that.
Yeah, and once you've fired both of those spells out, they have 3 to 12 second cooldowns depending on which one you use. And it's like you throw an ability out, you fire a couple of auto attacks that do absolutely nothing, and Pantheon was taking most of the damage to the face. Vanilla now has double buffs. I can't stress how important that is in this lane.
I've got to wonder what Kubon's going to do, and the answer is evacuate his lane. I don't know what they're going to do. It looks like they're just going to put no one in the top lane. They just don't want to deal with the Lucian. Because they are freezing the lane, however, Kubon may just cycle all the way back up there. Perry has read this, though, and it's like, that's strange. The top laner hasn't been there for the last 5 minutes. I guess I'll head on up there and see what I can do. And he's just going to let the tower fall. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, though, Take Fun actually just taking a couple hits from Exile.
But it proves to be the right decision because look at Perry. He is waiting for Rise.
Yeah.
He is not letting up with this this ruthless aggression right now. And in fact, this is so smart from Kubon. Perry wants to camp top to get the kills. They say, okay, we know what the deal is. We'll take a dragon for free.
This is a very unusual situation to be in where your top lane is so far behind, but Mouz are dealing with it perfectly. The experience showing through from being that ex-LCS team of MYM now under the banner of Mouz. So they have rotated towards the dragon, but maybe left it a little too long. They still have that cannon minion there, and they're wailing away at the top turret.
They are. This is taking severe chunks of damage right now, and it's 3 players pushing. It's just going to be Rise. Annie is coming as well, so Livik is going to try and bring the reinforcements, but the tower is going to fall regardless, Paul. So that's 2 towers for one dragon, and now Kubon is well on the back foot.
And the funny thing is, even though there's 2 towers going down, that's only really evened up the gold totals because of that extra kill and them just slightly out-farming the opposing lineup. But either way, those 2 towers will at least mean that Rise can get some farm, even though they did lose those objectives.
Yeah, so how is that going to impact Kubon going forward? The question is not a great deal if no one of the lane gets pressured. If Kubon is allowed to farm right where he is now without any issue, he's going to be by and large pretty happy with this. But if you start to see the entirety of SK Gaming Prime barrel down mid or bottom, he's going to have to react. And as you said before, he is falling further and further behind on experience. Mozilla's also getting some free farm, so it's not a case of saying, well, Kubon's going to get and spiral ahead of Renekton, because that's just not the case.
Kubon takes a lot of time to ramp up in power as well, and it's not like there's just nothing's going to happen on the board because Livik may be aggressed on the mid lane, but anything like that could happen at any point in the game, and Kubon just can't afford to sit in top lane and pretend he's Nasus.
Exactly. That's exactly the point. So at some point he is going to have to join the rest of his team. He doesn't have teleport, so he's not going to be able to suddenly appear. Remember, last game he did because so did Malphite. So again, he's not a super mobile Rise right now. He's trying to push this tower, but in doing so, you can see the SK Gaming Prime are just going to push towers themselves.
I'm getting flashbacks of Game 1 here, Metas, where it just seems like SK Gaming Prime are out-rotating the opposing team with Mouz. They're just getting the better of them in these rotates.
Yeah, they certainly are. And even though they're a kill behind, and the first blood behind as well, has to be mentioned in mid lane, it was Take Fun that picked that up onto Exile, they're still starting to get back towards even, and that's all because of the rotations, as you say. Kubon though has been caught at top lane.
It's Perry time, and the Rune Prison goes down, the flash comes out, and Kubon will be escaping with his life, but at the expense of one of those summoners.
Yeah, Flash was used, so again, he can't afford to push too aggressively in this lane. Both top towers are dead. That's a long way to drag yourself back to the sanctuary of your own base, or mid lane as the case may be. So that probably will actually give Mozilla quite a bit of happiness and enjoyment, knowing that Kubon can't be too aggressive on him.
And 6 will not be recalling this day, as Take Fun will just harass him out of that bush. Stop him recalling just for a couple more seconds. More of a minor annoyance for 6 at this stage.
Interesting enough, Exile has gone for the Berserker Greaves first again. You mentioned this in game number 1, that it's not necessarily the most common of pickups, but I would expect him to go exactly the same build order, Paul, because, hey, if it ain't broke, why fix it? He went Berserker Greaves into Zeal, which then turned into Static Shift, and then instantly rushed the Infinity Edge. What I will say is, last time around, he got pretty farmed and fed around the 10 to 15 minute mark. So if it stays quite stale here for Yasuo, 0, 1, and 0, which is 72 farm, I'm not too sure he's going to be forcing that Infinity Edge straight away. He may go for a tanky kind of build beforehand.
And I could see that happening in this game because Orianna is a more defensive mid laner, but the villain in the bot lane will be flashing out. Another flash from Mikado will catch up into the Aegis. Makler just following up with the damage, but 6 has come back from spawn. Ace in the hole is channeling, and 6 will block that in his path.
Yep, that's exactly what I was talking about previously. Taking an AD carry who has mobility, has an escape. If that was somebody like a Jinx, for example, you're 6 feet under. You're dying in that position because the Grand Skyfall would have landed on your face. That would have been death. Meanwhile, mid lane though,
Perry is aggressing along with his jungle, and the flash forwards and the ignite picks up 1, but he is not a reset champion. He will get on out of there. A great shockwave onto 2, but that was just him and his clone. Makata, will be tagged by the whirlwind up to the side. Exile just charging those up on those minions. A perfect usage of those mechanics.
That was, well, actually Mozilla's getting aggressed on by Kuban. I'm not sure he has the movement speed to catch up. No, he doesn't. So what I was going to say is that was a case of Mouz just getting too clumped up. We talked about this composition, the synergy between Perry and Exile's champions, and they stood toe-to-toe and they just got obliterated. That will continue to happen in this game if they make positional errors.
4-3 is the current scoreline. Not a huge discrepancy there, but the goal total is starting to separate. That's what we saw in the first game. It started off as a couple thousand gold, but after, I think there's only around 20 minutes, it was a 10,000 gold discrepancy, which is quite a big number when you think about it.
Yeah, it certainly is, but a lot of the more important stats as well are the towers. It's 3-1, mid tower's taking a bit of a pounding as well. It's just above 50% of its hit points, and the kind of composition right now that SK Gaming Prime is running, they can take towers down pretty fast. So these are all things for Mouz to keep in the back of their mind, because Kuban is having a nice little time of it at top lane trying to catch up on farm. He's still only 62, mind you, after nearly 12 minutes. But if he doesn't start to join his team, they are going to lose more objectives. They're going to lose Dragon in 30 seconds when it respawns, unless Kuban reacts.
Here comes the rotate. The Glitter Lance lands onto Libic. A great Incinerate will stun up those 2 members aggressing. Will be the end of that attempt on Libic's life right here. But, as you mentioned, the Dragon is spawning in around 18 seconds, and the teams are gearing up for this potential fight.
They are, but Kuban still isn't quite in position. 10 seconds to go. He could make it in time, but question is, do SK Gaming Prime want to go in and get a pick beforehand? Doesn't look too likely. Both teams more content to put down the ward placement, make sure they don't get caught out of position.
I'm going to clear out these wards, but a fight probably will erupt around this area. It's unlikely that SK will just allow them to take this dragon lying down, and they will aggress. Interesting flash from Perry. Doesn't instantly use the ultimate, but will land onto Levick. The ultimate comes out, the point blank man drop comes out, and will only land onto 1 member. That will be Mozilla, and he gets flattened underneath Manfian. A 1-for-1 trade. Mozilla dropping for Levick, and SK are looking angry. They want to go for the re-engage. Nimbus right comes forward. The wind wall will be blocking off Kuban completely. They are aggressing again onto the dragon, clearing out that ward. This has gone back to a 4-on-4 dragon fight, or dragon dance.
Dragon Dance indeed. It was a really strange one, and Mal's actually pulling this one back out again, so they are keen to take down this dragon. And remember, it was a top laner for a support, so this could actually end up backfiring.
SK are split though, and if they pick up these 2 members before they get near, it could be disastrous, but they are just poking them down. It may just come down to a smite fight. Kuban is taking some damage, and with the Ocelot ult from Orianna, that's huge. And 6 comes forward. He doesn't land any of the skill shots. Makla's come in, and Livick has respawned from base. The kill has gone down onto Exile in the foreground, or the background rather. Makla lands an auto attack onto the clone, not the ideal target. 6 flashes over the wall. Another summoner goes down.
Yasuo for Dragon is huge for SK Gaming Prime. They are able to pick that one up, and they're going to be pushing forward and some of that gold. That being said, though, they're going to have to stave off this onslaught on mid tower.
They are definitely trying to do so. Mozilla using Call the Meat to try and do something to that effect, but it seems like mid tower is just going to collapse right in the mid lane.
It will. So they do get the objective, they pull themselves back, but that was a very prolonged, strange fight from both teams. In the first part of that, I'll just call it stage 1 of that dragon, Libic went down for Renekton, and they focused so much on Libic, so many abilities, so many summoners, and also ultimates, that I thought initially they're going to come out second best now, because the support's only dead and you've burnt everything. But they didn't go for the juggler straight afterwards. They waited for a little while, waited for about 30 seconds before re-engaging, and that allowed the strength to come back from SK Gaming Prime. It's such a strange fight.
It was very strange, and Takefun also missed his ultimate in that action as well.
Exactly.
I actually called it the Ocelot ult, where he just whiffed it completely. Even after that, it didn't seem like SK was able to re-engage on that, and Mouz just picked up the mid lane turret. It did mean that they managed to pick up the dragon during all of that chaos, that being from SK Gaming Prime, so at least they did take some sort of consolation prize.
Yeah, the Takefun whiff ult was huge, because that just basically gave the go-ahead to SK Gaming Prime to go in. They knew that big ult was down, they knew that the chunk damage wouldn't be coming into effect, and that's pretty much the reason why they went all systems go. The green light shone, and they did end up taking the dragon. So pretty big passage of play, and that's going to put a few dents in Take Fun's confidence as well, because missing Orianna ults, they're pretty difficult to deal with, honestly. You feel terrible after missing that.
SK Gaming moving into the opponent's jungle. Mokana is there along with Kubon. Quite a lot of damage to offer, but may just well use the Cyclone. This time defensively, Mozilla not deciding to commit to this fight, knowing that Libic and also Take Fun just around the corner, so they will secure their own red buff. And Wukong has expended his ultimate.
He did definitely use the Cyclone there. Makate was not forced to flash away, so in that sense, not too bad for Mouz, and they pick up their red buff to boot, so going to be pressing the reset button right now in this team fight, and without Dragon being up for the next few minutes, it's really just going to go back to that farming frenzy.
One thing is for sure though, Messers, this game is a hell of a lot closer than we saw in Game 1. With already the game almost being over at this point. Mouz did manage to hang on, but this time they are a lot closer in terms of the goal total, and it doesn't seem like that's going to stop anytime soon. What we were saying during the break before we headed into this game, Messers, is that Mouz have a really great late game composition. We were just concerned whether they would ever get there, because SK's composition just synergizes so well. You have the Wild Growth and the Yasuo ultimate, and also the Cyclone. It's just an AoE wombo combo team fight.
Exactly, and that question, that query is still there in the back of the minds of also Kubon, because he's still not escalating himself forward. Yes, he's caught up a bit on farm, yes, he's starting to get some items in place, but he's still definitely not mid to late game terrorize that everyone fears to play against. He's only got the Rod of Ages. He's just finished that off, and 469 stacks out of 750 in his Tier of the Goddess. It's going to be another 10-15 minutes before he starts to get big. In that time, you could see SK Gaming Prime go for the jugular and try and end it before Eyes gets big.
Are you saying that Kubon could terrorize his opposition?
He could definitely terrorize his opposition. That is on the cards if they don't finish this game off.
Absolutely. Perry in his jungle, clearing out the rest of it, just taking down the White, fooling it with his decoy. I mean, that White is a pretty formidable foe. We've seen a lot of people die to that buff. Or that, it's not even a buff, man, it's just a normal camp.
It's weird though, isn't it? Because when it was released, everyone thought it was a buff, myself included. Whereas it's just a bit of gold. Just a bit of gold and XP. It is a raid boss, though. It is a beast. Don't mess with the White ratio.
It will wreck you and Take Fun in the mid lane. Also looking to wreck Exeler, who is trying his best to farm up this wave. Doesn't seem like he wants any of that samurai.
Nope, and this is kind of what I was expecting. I didn't see any big plays coming off here, just basically on the fact that which towers have fallen and in which areas. It wouldn't make a lot of sense to make a big push for top, for example. You're not really going to get a great deal out of that from either side. And Dragon is up in about 1 minute 10, so both teams want to congregate around this area, see if they can get a pick, get some wards down as well, and just prepare themselves for the inevitable Dragon.
Okay, Civilian in the bot lane may just find himself Mampian on his face area with Livid coming off to the side. Civilian isn't going anywhere, or just accepts his fate by standing still.
Couple things that were a bit strange there. One is, why are you pushing that aggressively without really any wards? Oh, actually, Cyclone went off and parry. And I think Take Fun actually flashed. Yes, he did. He flashed out of that ultimate. But two things. Vanilla pushing without any ward coverage, and there were multiple players on the map missing. Secondly, why did he pop his barrier? He knew he was dying. There was no way out of that situation. So you use a barrier, which is actually pretty big in terms of defensibility in these team fights. And that's not going to be available for this Dragon.
Absolutely, maybe just buckling under the pressure of this game. 20 seconds left on the Dragon. These teams will look to fight over it once again. Mouz were the ones rather to go onto that first, and it looks like they're going to repeat history. SK Gaming will have to react to this. 8 seconds left, and in fact they were the ones to smite it down and pick up that kill onto the Dragon, so I'm surprised they weren't there first.
Yeah, that is very true. I think one of the main factors is that Lucian was dead and he was making his way back again, but he could have probably been here in time, and this should be a free Dragon. In fact, they're going to push mid to try and counteract this.
Mozilla taking some hits from Livic and Take Fun. They're going to try and pick up the tower in return, but that's not going to happen. Mozilla already down to 45% HP to fast forward, and the tip is coming out from Livic. Take Fun unable to follow up, but meanwhile in the background, Exile takes down Rise, and he will be no longer taking fun from that. In the mid lane, Mal's just coming back into the defend that turret.
Thing is, if they can keep this middle tower standing, still worth it for Mouz. They got the Dragon for 1 kill in return, definitely worth. It looks like they can keep this tower alive as well, so Mouz do get the upper hand in that exchange.
You know, I'm a little surprised that SK Gaming didn't even look towards contesting the Dragon. They sort of looked for a mid-game push in terms of a rotation while they were taking down Dragon, and half-heartedly did it and then ended up doing nothing.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Quite uncharacteristic from SK Gaming Prime, who've been on top of objectives so far in these games. But regardless, they kind of they almost didn't commit fully, Pulse. It seemed to me like they were caught in two minds, and they thought, will we or won't we? And they ended up doing nothing as a result.
Pantheon ultimate onto Exile, however, jumps in, lands the Aegis, and oh, the ultimate will be blocked by the winnable. The flash forwards, Mechanic gets it with the spear, and also the Heartseeker strike. That was almost disastrous, almost not getting that kill.
It was beautiful play from Yasuo from Exile. He did manage to burn a flash from Makati that otherwise wouldn't have been needed. I was gonna say they're gonna engage, but both teams seem alright with this one.
Yeah, Mozilla, tanky enough where he's not going to take too much damage, will be shrugging that off from Makata, and doesn't really deal enough damage from Makata to be bothered.
Yeah, but Flash was burned from Makate, but so was Exile's Flash. So it was a nice wind wall, didn't really change a great deal in the end.
Not at all. Perry burning another Flash in that jungle, being very aggressive this game, despite being usually the less dominant one in that matchup with Wukong and Pantheon, but still trying to get those buffs when he can with those timers. Not been too successful so far.
So let's have a quick look-see at some of the items being built up then, because it's been pretty back and forth action throughout this game. Zoni's Hourglass for Orianna was the first item of choice. Still hasn't finished off Sork Shoe, so really wanted that to deal with all the AD damage that would be coming down, because remember, they are ultimately using a triple AD comp, I guess you could say, with Wukong, Yasuo, and also Vanillan, and also Renekton's going to do a bit of AD as well. So pretty standard first pick, I have to say, from Orianna.
With the game slowing down as well, Mouz will only really get stronger. They scale to late game really well, and it hasn't seemed like SK has been able to utilize their composition just yet. Even with two surefire ways to get Exile into the fight with Last Breath, it hasn't really worked out. Mouz have just been very separated and sparse in these fights, and a lot of the time SK haven't even looked for the fight, but Exile is on the hunt for Libic, who was clearing out the jungle wards, did have that whimsy, but wasn't able to catch up.
Yeah, and meanwhile, while SK Gaming Prime are not able to close this game off, Ryze is starting to get more farm. He's starting to get more stacks on that tier of the Goddess. He's also got the blasting one, so Seraph's Embrace more than likely coming up next, and that's where Ryze does hit a big power spike in the damage and also in how tanky he is in fights, Pulse. So again, SK Gaming Prime, they're ahead right now, only by about 1,000 gold and 2 towers, but that can change very, very quickly.
And as you mentioned, Ryze has picked up the Archangel Staff, which will be turning into a Seraph's Embrace fairly shortly, only another around 70 mana until he reaches that objective. But he's had a pretty shaky start. The early game was not what Ryze wanted at all, so it's taking them even longer to get to the stage of the late game Ryze we all know and fear. Makata gets hit by the Whirlwind, but didn't quite have the vision on that to follow up on it.
Yep, and again, they're allowing him to get some farm at top lane. He has started to move ahead of Renekton. Wukong could be caught.
He gets caught out by Kuban, but again, not dealing all that much damage. Will chunk him down to around 60% HP. The decoy actually taking the brunt of that burst.
Yep, but again, they are starting to pressure now, SK, and I'm just kind of worried if this is too little too late for them, because they don't have the kind of engaging utility capabilities as well to go underneath towers. If they do, you're going to be against a pretty scary team. Orianna can shockwave you under a tower, and before you know it, you've lost the fight. So they're trying to push, but there's really not too much they can do after that.
They don't have anywhere to go. They can't just force a Baron fight because they're not strong enough yet. And I don't think they even know if they can win on a 5v5, but we're about to find out. Exile gets detonated by Livik and the rest of his team. A Shockwave again just eliminates the minions, but no champions. Not really being on form with those Shockwaves this game, but it doesn't matter because Exile is in the Death Chamber.
No problems, you got about 40 gold from that shockwave. Worth.
Value.
Definitely welcome to Value Town population take fun. But as you said, it doesn't actually matter. They obliterated Exile. That was such a good engage. Flash Tibbers from Libic, and then you also had Grand Skyfall just for good measure from Makate. And with Exile being dead for the next 6 seconds, they can put some pressure on this mid tower.
Well, Seraph's Embrace was actually the thing to tank up the tower and do some damage to it, but it only really scratched the surface of that middle inner turret. Top lane's pushing in, and it looks like Ryze has got his eyes on that farm.
Yep, so again, we are getting to that stage in the game. Rise is getting more and more potent. Seraph's Embrace has been finished. He already has about 450 gold as well in his back pocket, so he is escalating towards that late game stage. Livik needs to be a bit careful though. Even though he got a really good engage last time, when you don't have Flash available as Annie and you don't have Tibbers, sorry, just Tibbers I should say, you're kind of engaging tool is way out the window. You really need to wait for that to come up.
When you don't have Annie, something's gone wrong, because you did pick her into this game. But
exactly.
Dragon is being attempted here by SK Gaming. They're actually the ones to be aggressing onto this, which is characteristically rather different from what we've been seeing all the way through this game. Pantheon not quite jumping in with the man drop just yet. But traditionally, their team fights have looked very strong with just getting that instant pick, and SK Gaming being like, we kind of don't want to go for this fight anymore.
Sorry I derped there about if you don't have Annie, but I read your Shockwave in Twitch chat and it just cracked me up so much. So yeah, if she doesn't have Tibbers is the one I was looking for, then your engaging potential is way down. It is just about to come off cooldown and they're going for the Dragon.
And Mouz is going to get this completely uncontested. It's SK Gaming just playing this game very weirdly. It's like they just don't want to go for a team fight just in case it doesn't work out. But then, why play League of Legends? You might as well just go AFK if you don't want to go for any confrontations, if you're just going to play the game like PvE.
Yeah, there is a phrase, fortune favours the brave, and SK Gaming Prime's composition really reflects that. If you don't do much with this comp, you're going to get no rewards. And again, you're against a team that scales very well, so at some point you have to man up, and you have to jump on in there. Otherwise you're going to lose slowly but surely, because already some items are being picked up. Last Whisper just finished off on Caitlyn. You've also got Orianna going for that Seraph's Embrace as well. A bit late, but doesn't matter. So you've got to start to get a move on here.
Fortune does not favour the minion farmers, which is what SK Gaming is kind of doing at the moment. And every time you think they're going to go for a team fight, there's just like, actually, Wraiths is up, so I think we should probably go for that instead. And that's been what's been happening, really, in the last 20 minutes. 6 and 8, and the gold disparity is only around 500 gold, which is essentially nothing at this stage. Mozilla is playing with fire in the top lane. Annie is waiting in the wings. They're not really sure they know Mozilla is there. He is looking for this collapse, and the Dominus has been popped. With Wukong coming off to the side, looking for this engage to happen. Nimbus Strike into that Cyclone will at least take down one of these targets, surely. Six has come into this fray as well. And also Vanilla, and finally Livik will be falling. And Perry looked to mop up Mamphion, who did man drop out of there.
Well, I got a question, Mouz. What are you doing when your AD carries a bot lane? Why would you be in that position? I'm not entirely sure. However, SK Gaming Prime going for this Baron.
They are, and Makata is very, very low. The Shockwave lands onto 2. The perfectly timed flash from Exile will keep him alive just for the foreseeable future. Pantheon is finding the right opportunity to go in, but he has flash, but no man drop because he did use that to get away. Mozilla has been tanking his Baron for so long. Makata has gone for the re-engage. Meanwhile, Caitlyn, they're just stalling for their AD carry. They managed to do some damage to Kubon. Miles may even just turn around and try and take this now. And Caitlyn is still pushing. Someone needs to deal with that. It's going to be Yasuo. 6 has been almost taken down by Take Fun. One more auto attack should be doing it. There it is from Take Fun. Meanwhile, Wukong goes huge, takes down Makata. In the bot lane though, Makla going toe to toe with Exile and is not having a good time at all. The flash comes out and the barrier completely out-kited, and Makla continues to push.
And now there is going to be alarm bells ringing because that's going to be Wukong falling as well around Baron. So everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. Renekton's going to chase down Makla, but he should be alright.
This has been cataclysmic. Makla is trying to kite away now the Crocodile and may be successful in this endeavor. He's got the neck coming up in 1 second. Ultimate comes through, lands onto the Vanillan, and that took up quite a sizable chunk, and Makla's just going 1 versus 1 against the whole team from SK. It doesn't look like he's going to be falling even to Lucian, but he is keeping up the chase. I think he's probably going to give up. I think he's still going after him. Doesn't quite land a piercing light.
What did we learn today, Pulse? Baron is a fiendish, flirtatious minx. Every time you go for that, it's going to throw the game for you, or it's going to put you way behind, and that was no different. SK Gaming Prime, they got the pick on Livik, but after that, everything went wrong. Orianna came through. We've made fun of Take Fun's Shockwave so far in this game, but that one was awesome. It was right on the Baron pit, forced the flash away, and chunked everyone down, and then they just played up clean up. Plus, on top of that, Caitlyn didn't get the inhibitor, but did take the tower, and that is also very, very important.
Mouz really are starting to come not only back into this game, but are now leading this game by a fair margin. The bot tower has fallen, meaning that if they wanted to force a fight over that inhibitor, I'm sure SK would probably just give up and go back to farming. So they could just go back into the bot lane and try and tempt that. And SK, they just need to be a bit more confrontational.
They do. They have to try and make picks and make plays. And I guess the bad news for them is that they actually did that on Libic, but then still lost the fight with Caitlyn at bot lane. Like, that's pretty terrifying when you think about it. And on top of that, you've also got, as if it wasn't bad enough, Frozen Heart has just been finished by Ryze. So now Ryze is at that stage where he is going to take a licking and keep on kicking.
That was an interesting phrase. I don't think I've ever heard that phrase before, but...
Exactly.
Was that something you just, improvised off the bat, or did you have that in your back pocket?
No, it was. I thought, why not? Because Ryze will kick you in the face and then steal your money.
He will. He is the classic playground bully that we all knew at school. Ryze.
Well, the thing is, though, is interesting enough, at the start you can bully him. So if anything, maybe he's that
late game bully
kid that turns into a bully, turns into the Brock Lesnar's. If you don't
he just
watch
gets
UFC,
stacked.
Then
He just eats a ton of burgers, converts all that fat into muscle.
And then he comes back and pimp slaps you.
Yeah, don't bully any kids, folks, because they will just turn into Ryze and terrorize you when it gets to late game.
We should make a slogan out of that, actually.
We should do.
Anti-bullying campaign here on KSTV.
Yep. We are
40
against
seconds
bullying.
on Dragon, though.
40 seconds on Dragon, which is a lot more relevant. But neither of these teams looking to do too much until we get around that spawning time. Baron is off to... No, Baron is still on the board. I keep thinking Baron is down because of how many Baron fights we've seen. But Baron is still alive and kicking, man. Even if he doesn't have feet, he is still kicking.
He definitely is. Kicking with his head, which is also known as a headbutt. But I don't know.
Headbanging, perhaps.
Yeah, well, he has multiple heads, doesn't he? He's got like two jaws on the side. Regardless, though, Baron is still up, and I'm completely alongside you. It seems like Baron has gone down a couple times, but it's always been all hell breaking loose, and as a result, one team loses a few players, and they kind of cancel that one away. Dragons respawn. Makate's probably going to pick this up, although you can see SK Gaming Prime are coming down.
They are going to try and collapse, and now Mouz are trying the sneaky tactic of taking down the dragon by itself. Ace and Hole comes across, lands onto Mozilla, was not blocked by the wind wall today. Culling comes through and will be heavily tagging Libic as they move back onto the dragon. And I think there's at least a third dragon in a row to go to Mouz, if not the fourth. I believe we did have one still earlier by Perry. And now we'll see if Mouz go for this engage. Makler is leading a charge, maybe not the right person to have on the front lines, but they don't go for the fight either way.
Yeah, the only dragon that SK actually picked up was when they stole it away, if you remember, with the Orianna ultimate whiffing. So, had it not have been for that, Mouz would have secured every single dragon in this game. Makate is in no man's land, though, and he's being chased down.
Makate is still very tanky, but that huge slide from 6 will keep him in place for a sizable chunk of time. Now, this may be the collapse from Makler, Libic, and Take Fun as they just come in. Mandrop is coming into the fray. Makata looking to be sped up by that dissonance, but hasn't quite been used just yet. Huge shockwave comes out. There's the dissonance. Mozilla looking to zone up the whole back line, and a massive cyclone evaporates one member. Looks for the second. There it is. And now Take Fun and the rest of the team are just running away for their lives. The villain is now kiting backwards, though. Makler is still full HP and also has that red buff. That's definitely a force to be to contend with. A 2 for free trade overall.
Awesome whimsy there on Kubon from 6. Took him down as he's about to fire out the overload, and then they picked up the kill afterwards. So good. Makate also went a bit too tunnel vision there, jumping past, and the wind wall came out as well from Yasuo, so he's kind of isolated from the rest of his team. They pick up Makate and then turn it way back around. So again, try not to tunnel vision too much, because SK Gaming, they have a team that can pick you apart.
But these team fights are still very close. They're not a whitewash either way. Oh, Exile has got nowhere really to go and will just meet his fate at the hands of Makler. Meeting his Makler, if you will. That was pretty bad.
Meet your Makler. That is so gonna get spammed.
It will. Very soon. I'm sorry, Twitch chat, but you won't be readable for the next 30 seconds. So now Baron seems like it will be the next objective. We have said that multiple times over the last 20 minutes and has not really rang true because these guys keep on scrapping over it. But Take Fun is so low, even if they do attempt this. Not quite the place he wants to be at, but with Exile still being in the death chamber for the next 17 seconds, this could be the fight that they want to go for.
Certainly could. 4v5 without that pretty scary mid lane, and Kubon is going on to Finalen.
They use a ton of ultimates just to clear one member off the board, and he doesn't even drop. Perry, though, will die in his place. He went very aggressive with no real backup. Zavillan is trying his best to just poke them down away from Baron, but Kubon and Take Fun will just zone him away, and SK do not want any of that Baron dance.
Well, and there's going to be Mouz picking up the Baron as well. And as you say, Perry went in pretty aggressively, and he just got popped down. And that's because Vanillan was getting crushed in the face from Kubon. And on top of that, Mozilla was very, very low as well. So it was just all around not a great situation for Perry to be in.
Top tower's just being chunked down. Mukata is very tanky. Actually gone for a very tank-centric build. 6 is caught completely unawares. The man drop comes down into Jaegers for that stun. Livic has also come out there. There's so many flashes out, and the wind wall will block all of those skill shots, and 6 just walks on out.
Exile's wind walls, man, they have been so good. Even if they lose this game, even though he's 2-6, he's saved 2 or 3 teammates already with that ability. So good. Again, though, they're picking up the objectives, Pulse, and it's almost as if you know, Mouz read the script and they were thinking, yeah, if we dig in deep, we'll end up winning this game. That's exactly what they've done.
And this game is going on for quite a long time, and we've mentioned that Rise will approach that stage where he's very difficult to kill. Makla has been caught out. Mozilla is looking just to land that first slice so he can get onto Makla with the dice. There it is, lands it with the Ruthless Predator, and the slide in by Exile will be mopping up that mess. 1 kill's gone down. Makla in the death chamber for a whole 60 seconds, and Mokata is just trying to beat this wild goose chase, allowing his team to really regroup, but 2 members are dropping 6 feet under, and now SK may just rewind this game.
Vintage Mouz, though, or Meet Your Makers as the case may be, they did this in LCS all the time. They take a big advantage and then get caught needlessly and pay for it dearly. 40 seconds on Makate, 30 seconds on Makla. There's a lot of creep wave clear, though, from Orianna and Rice, so I'm not too sure they can push this tower down.
How much damage can they do with those 2 members in the base? This is a 3-man stack, but they are the AP carries, and they can clear out the waves as a result very quickly, even without Caitlyn. And SK don't really do anything with that advantage.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around why they got caught around the Baron area, and I can't figure it out, Pulse. Ward coverage maybe, but is it really worth doing when the remaining of the opposition team is missing and could very well be in that vicinity themselves? They paid for it so bad there, and that's also Baron buffs that went to waste.
It definitely felt like wrong place, wrong time. Just like Mozilla in the bot lane, Kubon and Libic looking to follow up. Dominus has been popped, but he's just not getting out of here. Ignite is raining down. Auto attacks, and Libic somehow picks up that kill from Kubon.
So now Mozilla is going to be dead for 48 seconds, and you can see that both Kubon and Libic are pushing bot lane. You've got Take Fun and Makla going through mid, and the Grand Skyfall is available for Makate. So they are going to try this 2-pronged attack. Remember, Nexus Tower is up, Inhibitor Tower is down at the bot lane. So that's going to give them a bit more ability to take down this Inhibitor and really stamp their authority into this game.
Almost feels like Mouz just forgot the Inhibitor was exposed. Mandrop coming down to Villain has been caught out. Another wind wall in the right place, but the Inhibitor is dropping. Mokata is tanking them up, but it's tanking a lot of damage in return. They do take down the Inhibitor. Now they have some passive pressure to deal to SK Gaming, and only 1 casualty at the end of that.
That's exactly what they needed to do, is take the free objective, get some of those super minions pushing bot lane, and then pick up the dragon afterwards, because this is by and large going to be free for them. So overall, very good play from Mouz, but they need to steady the ship. They need to get some vision down here from Libic and the rest of Mouz, and stop walking into face-checking bushes and getting yourself caught out of position, because that's been their problem over these last 2 games, Pulse. Even when they won game number 1, when they were losing game number 1, a number of times they walked into bushes and got themselves caught, and that's what really escalated their loss forward.
And the item builds are really accelerating in this game. 40 minutes into this one, and the farm totals are pretty significant. AD carries are quite close, but in the top lane, Rise has just been spending all of this time farming, while Renekton has been contributing to these team fights and just roaming about with his team. But the machine gun spellcaster, as he's been nicknamed, Rise is just looking very strong, almost approaching that 4 item build himself.
Yep, a lot of big items being finished across the board. 3 Zhonya's Hourglasses, you got 3 Randuin's Omens as well. Talisman of Ascension onto Lulu, but interestingly enough, Annie has not picked up Talisman, gone for the Zhonya's Hourglass instead, so going more for a raw damage than actually utility for the team.
So Exile, let's see what he goes back with. He's got a bit of gold in his back pocket, only about 1,000 gold alongside Lucian. He'll be collecting up a Spectre's Cowl, so now going a little bit more tanky, which is to be expected. Likes to go for the core item build of Infinity as Static Shiv, and then the Last Whisper when people start building that armor. And he hasn't had a lot of gold to play with this game, so he's had to go for the Last Whisper a little bit before the tanky items. So now he's really getting those up into gear.
The thing is, what I'd normally say here is that Mouz probably want to split push. They want to have this 4-1 formation. Pantheon pushing top, rest of Mouz going mid or bottom when the inhibitor respawns and taking that one down. That being said though, Wukong has a lot of engaging potentiality coming out from the decoy and then just going in the Cyclone. So they have to be careful there that if Wukong does just vanish for a few seconds, that they don't overextend in mid. Again, it's similar to the other way around. Mouz do not have a great sieging team. They're not going to be able to pick up this tower quickly.
This is going to be a slow push if I've ever seen one. Caitlyn does have a long range and is very good in these siege scenarios, or they could just engage and evaporate the AD carry first. Libic has got into Zhonya's, even had the money to afford that. Tibbers is tanking some of these tower shots, but now it's a 4 versus 5, and it's just made it way easier for Mouz to siege.
Well, you can take everything I just said and flush it down the toilet if the AD carry gets caught in the front of the fight. Like, that is not something expected. They are going to be re-engaging.
Yeah, SK's the one to engage though, even 4 versus 5, and the Wind Wall has come out, briefly blocking out Libic, but he's quick to get back into the action, takes down Yasuo into his Guardian Angel, and the Ace in the Hole comes across, picks up another. This looks like it's curtains on this game. Everyone into the Death Chamber for another 50 seconds, and this will be Mouz evening this up 1-1 in the grand finals of the EpicGearCup.
Don't want to rag on Vanillan, but that positioning was questionable at the front line. Just getting a Tibbers drop on his face. That is going to be 1-1, as you say, and a very interesting, entertaining game again. It just seems to me, Pulse, I'm not sure about what your feelings are here, but this is loose play. This is like League of Throws 101. Whenever a team gets an advantage, they just